Exposed, 7 spine-chilling cults with haunted rituals and sinister secrets you need to discover. Gnarled hands clutched at moonlit shadows, whispering old spells that echoed through the quiet suburb of Maplewood. Sarah, a weary single mother with no other options, found herself squeezed between the walls of her life and the pressure of making rent. As she served coffee at the diner, rumors floated like smoke-dark tales of a local cult, hidden behind the rows of white picket fences. But those were just stories, right? Until the day the light faded from her world. After a grueling shift, fatigue gnawed at Sarah's bones. She stumbled home, expecting the cheerful embrace of her daughter, Lily, but was met with an eerie silence. No laughter echoed in the halls. No soft footfalls of her spirited 10-year-old. Panic tightened its icy grip around her throat. "Lily!" she called, her voice cracking against the stillness. No reply came. Only a chill wind danced through the open window, rustling the curtains like ghostly fingers. As she rushed into every room, frantic thoughts invaded her mind. Had something happened? Had someone taken her? Sarah raced outside, her heart pounding like a war drum. Her neighbors watched her with eyes too wide, their polite smiles twisting into something more sinister. Whispers filled the air, a collective murmur that brushed against her skin like the cold touch of fear. Was everyone part of something darker? Panic twisted in her gut. "Have you seen Lily?" she gasped, desperation spilling into the night. They merely turned, faces pale, avoiding her gaze like she was a leper. The silence screamed louder than any words. At the town library, she found old newspapers, their pages crumbling under her fingers. Ink stains spoke of vanished children, shadowy figures lurking at the edges of town meeting, stories she had overlooked until now. The cult, it turned out, wasn't just folklore. It thrived in shadows, preying on mothers like her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The deeper she dug, the more tangled her world became. The cops shrugged off her pleas, their indifference made her feel weightless, as though she were floating above the horror that wrapped around her. Every flicker of movement flared panic in her chest as shadows loomed ever closer. Sarah felt eyes on her. At night, whispers drifted through the darkness, chilling her to the bone, tying her thoughts into wild knots of fear. Then, a glimmer of hope pierced the growing despair. Word spread of a ritual the cult would soon conduct. Sarah's breast thumped violently as a fierce determination sparked inside her. She would reclaim her daughter. Armed with only her flashlight, she stepped into the moonless night. The paths felt alive, black tendrils curling around her ankles, guiding her toward the cult's hiding place. As lousy chants and blood-curdling screams rose, Sarah crept closer, adrenaline pouring through her veins. Doubts clawed at her mind. But she had to know. The truth awaited. Facing the cult leader, an ominous figure shrouded in shadows, she felt a spine-chilling recognition settle inside her. Would she save Lily, or would she fall into the dark legacy of Maplewood? The world tilted ominously, the night held its breath, waiting for a decision that could seal their fates forever. The air grew thick with anticipation as Sarah crouched low, her flashlight trembling in her grip. Shadows danced wildly under the flickering flames of the ritual bonfire, casting grotesque shapes on the ground. The chants intensified, reverberating through her bones, pulling at her sanity. She edged closer, the metallic scent of blood stinging her nostrils, twisting her stomach in knots. Figures cloaked in dark robes moved rhythmically around the fire, their faces obscured. Yet Sarah felt their eyes penetrate her, watching, waiting. She swallowed hard, a lump forming in her throat. Was Lily there, bound and frightened among them, or was she already lost to this sinister gathering? Her heart raced, a frantic thump echoing in tune with the pounding drums. Then she spotted her small, vulnerable, sitting on the ground, the flickering light revealing her disheveled hair and tear-streaked face. Relief surged through Sarah, flooding her with newfound courage. But the relief twisted into horror as she noticed the cult leader raising a dagger high above his head, chanting louder, his voice a bone-chilling growl that drowned out all rational thought. "No!" Sarah screamed, the sound ripping from her throat like a wounded animal. The crowd of cultists turned, their movements synchronizing, a wave of twisted intent crashing toward her. The leader's gaze locked onto hers, and she felt the darkness wrap around her, a tangible thing that squeezed her chest and twisted her mind. She couldn't let them take Lily. Not like this. She flicked the flashlight on, its beam slicing through the veil of terror. The harsh light illuminated the leader's face for a fleeting moment. His features were an eerie blend of familiar and grotesque, a haunting reminder of someone she once knew. Panic washed over her. This couldn't be real. Not him. Feeling the surge of adrenaline, Sarah sprinted toward the fire, ignoring the terrified whispers behind her. "I'm coming for you, Lily," she shouted, her voice threadbare but full of fierce determination. She could almost reach her daughter, the air crackling with tension. Just a few more steps. But the cultists were quick, forming a wall of black robes, faces hidden beneath hoods. The chanting abruptly halted, replaced by cold laughter that slithered into her mind, chilling her resolve. The leader stepped forward, dagger gleaming in the firelight. "You shouldn't have come here, Sarah. The sacrifice demands your presence." Caught between fear and fury, she seized a rock from the ground, brandishing it like a weapon. "Get away from her!" she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. But as she advanced, dread washed over her. What was she really up against? Was it just them, or was the darkness of Maplewood itself alive, festering like an old wound? Suddenly, the ground rumbled beneath her feet, not merely a tremor but a pulse, as if the earth was breathing. Shadows stretched and coiled, and with each heartbeat, the air thickened. The cult's laughter rose to a crescendo, mocking her futile attempt to rescue her daughter. The flames flickered wildly, and she could see something shifting in the burning light, an ancient symbol forming in the circle of fire, a sigil she recognized from her frantic research. Sarah's mind raced. This was more than just a cult, it was a spiritual suffocation, a night where past and present collided with terrifying consequences. She took a step back, grasping the insignificance of her stance against the dark legacy, knowing she had to make a choice. "Join us, or be lost forever," the leader hissed, beckoning her with the blade, the glint of another escape shimmering in his eyes. Terror gripped her again. Could she truly save Lily? Just then, a horrified scream cut through the cacophony. "Lily!" It echoed through the night, slicing right through Sarah's heart. Instinct erupted within her. She had to act before the light was snuffed out forever. As she gathered every ounce of strength, prepared to make the leap into the unknown, another thought seated itself deep in her mind. What if the cost of rescue was far more than she could imagine? Would the price be her own soul? With breathless urgency, she raced into the heart of the cult, knowing only one thing for sure. Time was running out. The fire's glow distorted everything, making the night feel feverish. Sarah surged forward, rock gripped tightly in her hand, heart pounding choicelessly against her ribs. She fought the panic threatening to engulf her as the cultists closed in, their laughter echoing menacingly in her ears. The weight of their malice pressed on her, unyielding and suffocating. "Help me!" Lily's voice trembled somewhere near the flames, drowning in a gurgle of despair that sent new adrenaline coursing through Sarah. She could see her daughter now bound at the wrists, fear blossoming in her wide, innocent eyes. "Stay back!" The leader roared, swinging the blade dangerously close to his own face, a twisted grin plastered on his features. The cultists' laughter died in a whisper, tension mounting in the air like a thick fog. With every step Sarah took, the swirling shadows seemed to reach for her, dragging her down, threatening to ensnare her. The dagger flickered in her mind, a clear image of its purpose to pierce flesh, to sever hope. She had to act now, or Lily would be nothing but a dream swallowed by the darkness. "Let her go!" Sarah cried out, her voice cracking but firm, cutting through the silence like a knife. The leader's eyes narrowed, a brief flash of annoyance flickering before the sinister grin returned. "Only if you join us," he taunted, raising the dagger in a mock salute. But Sarah saw through the ruse, a desperate attempt to stall her. "I want to become one of you," she shouted back, feeling the tainted air quiver with her defiance. She could feel the earth beneath her again, pulsing like a living thing, reminding her of the weight of choice, the cost of defiance. Gathering her resolve, Sarah hurled the rock toward the leader. The projectile arced through the air, striking him in the shoulder with a sickening thud. Surprise flitted across his face, momentarily breaking the thrall of the gathering. "It's now or never," she thought. In the instant of chaos, she lunged forward, her feet pounding against the dirt, her mind racing with visions of Lily's innocent smile. She forged through the thinning ranks of black robes, picturing her daughter free and safe. But just as hope surged, a hand grasped her arm, pulling her back. It was a cultist, eyes empty, voice a low hiss. "You cannot escape what you are," he whispered, dragging her into the creeping shadows. Sarah twisted, adrenaline fueling her screams, but the darkness wrapped around her like a shroud. She fought to break free, kicking and pushing, surfacing for clarity amid the chaos. "Mom!" Lily's cry echoed in the abyss, a haunting wail that pierced through the murky haze. The leader, now wounded and furious, regained control. "Bring them both!" he shouted. The air crackled, and the shadows swirled violently, enfolding them all. Terror washed over Sarah as the chants rose higher, weaponizing the darkness, creating a tangible wall closing in on them. Time slipped through her fingers like sand. She was trapped in a nightmare, a prisoner to this haunting legacy that sought to claim them both. An eerie chant erupted, resonating from the distance, binding, suffocating, each syllable echoing a promise, a curse. And then, as the shadows tightened their grip, something shifted within her. Fight! Her instincts roared, the echoes of past truths racing through her mind. What if she were stronger than they anticipated? What if she could extinguish this darkness? Just then, a blinding flash exploded from the center of the bonfire, momentarily illuminating the ring of cultists, revealing their twisted expressions: hunger, anger, desperation. Caught off guard, some primal part of her fought against their pull. Would it be enough? Sarah's heartbeat thundered. She slipped free. "Lily!" she cried out, drawing strength from her daughter's name, charging toward the bind that held her fast. This was her moment. She could feel the ancient energy pulsating through the ground, pushing them apart like a tide. But as she reached for her daughter, a new sound broke through, the sound of something moving beneath their feet. Something alive, and then, horror-filled realization struck. It wasn't just the cult that needed a sacrifice. They all were. In the eye of chaos, Sarah scrambled, not knowing who would truly be saved by dawn's cruel light or if they would survive the darkness at all. Chaos erupted as Sarah's pulse hammered in her ears. The world spun around her, caught in the grasp of terror. The strange creature beneath their feet writhed, a pulsing mass that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. She felt the ground tremble, each shift promising more nightmares waiting to surface. "Lily!" Sarah shrieked, forcing herself to focus on her daughter. The girl was still bound, eyes wide with fear, reflecting the fire's glow. The sight of her innocence among the darkness spurred Sarah on. She would tear through the malevolence, even if it meant facing the shadows that threatened her spirit. As she stumbled forward, the leader hissed angrily, sending shadows darting toward her. They slithered like serpents, cold tendrils grasping at Sarah's ankles, threatening to drag her into the depths of despair. She tore at the darkness, swinging her arms wildly, trying to create a barrier between herself and the creeping entities. The cultists rallied, their voices low and rhythmic, weaving an incantation thick with sinister energy. The ground trembled underfoot, and every syllable felt like a sword, cutting deeper into her resolve. Sarah's breath caught, fear winding tighter around her throat. Would they succeed in their dark ritual? Would Lily be claimed by the very shadows that sought retribution? "Stay away from my daughter!" she screamed, launching herself toward the circle of chanting figures. With each stride, the oppressive weight of the air around her thickened, the tendrils straining harder against her. But she pressed on, heart racing, willing herself to pull Lily free. As the leader called forth the creature below, the ground shivered violently. A gnarled, twisted arm broke through, reaching out with claw-like fingers, glistening with an unnatural sheen. Desperation surged through Sarah. There had to be something she could do. Something they hadn't prepared for. In that instant, a glimmer of light illuminated her surroundings. It flickered, fluttering just out of reach, but it was enough to hone her focus. Confidence surged, she rallied her fear into a spear of pure emotion. "Lily! I'm coming!" she cried, her voice fierce as she barreled toward the binds that held her daughter captive. But the cult leader saw her movement and drew back, intensity flashing in his eyes. "You cannot fight destiny!" he shrieked, summoning the dark energies around him with frantic gestures. At his command, shadows swelled like waves crashing upon the shore. Sarah lunged forward, but the dark surge slammed into her, knocking her to the ground. Pain shot through her, a backlash that reverberated in her bones. The cultists laughed, a cacophony of mockery layered over the oppressive hum of evil that lingered in the air. "Help me!" Lily cried again, but this time her voice cracked, a note of terror that twisted like a dagger in Sarah's heart. David, one of the cultists, stepped forward, gaze unholy, the shadows twisting eagerly around his feet. "It's not too late," he hissed, his voice dripping with honeyed menace. "Join us, embrace your fate. Save her from the darkness never." Sarah coughed, pushing herself back up. With renewed strength, she glimpsed new options. Desperation sparked something within her, an unsettling but undeniable connection to the entity below. Maybe there was a way to turn this darkness against itself. But it was risky, and there was no guarantee. As she hesitated, the ground convulsed. The creature thrashed, struggling against the bindings of the ritual, and the cultists' chants hit a fever pitch. The power radiating from below surged upward, a chaotic force threatening to rip the very fabric of reality apart. Sarah locked eyes with Lily, seeing nothing but desperate hope, and her daughter's fear began to merge with her own courage. Could they take a final stand together? Gathering her breath, Sarah steadied herself, the weight of the choice heavy on her heart. They would either be consumed by the darkness, or they would escape into the dawn. At that moment, a deafening roar echoed from the earth, shaking the air around them, assuring her that time was running out. With one last focused thought, Sarah reached for the unknown, ready to challenge the very essence of the dark fate that loomed ahead. But could she harness the wrath of this ancient spirit? Could she transform despair into salvation? The answer surged like a fire within her. The darkness suddenly swelled all around them, shifting and curling, angry and desperate. The shadows pulsated, racing toward her like a tidal wave, and just as it seemed they would consume her, a piercing light sprang forth from Sarah. Something ignited within her that even the night could not overshadow. But what would that light reveal or destroy? A blinding burst of light erupted from Sarah, radiant and fierce. It splashed across the dark shadows, illuminating the twisted faces of the cultists. Their expressions morphed from glee to horror in an instant, as their incantation faltered, crumbling under the force of her light. Sarah felt the warmth wash over her, filling her with resolve, but also a stirring fear. What was this power inside her? The shadows recoiled, shrieking like startled animals. They shrank back, swirling in wild chaos, but the leader regained his footing, fury sparking in his eyes. You think you can challenge us? You are nothing but a speck in the grand design. He bellowed, thrusting his hands toward the ground, a desperate attempt to reclaim control. The creature beneath them thrashed violently, its shrieks echoing in Sarah's brain. She could feel its overwhelming energy, furious and trapped. It was powerful, but was it malevolent? An idea sparked. Could she tap into the creature's rage? Sarah took a deep breath, and for the first time, she faced the entity below, no longer with fright, but with defiance. Listen to me. She called out, her voice steady, cutting through the din of chaos. I know your pain. I know your hunger. You don't need to serve them, fight back. The air sizzled with tension. The ground trembled again, but this time, Sarah felt a shift, a grudging acceptance from deep below. The shadows hesitated, as though confused by her words. Lily. Her daughter's panicked cries snapped Sarah back to her immediate reality. Time was slipping, the cultists regrouped, fury glinting in their eyes. David lunged forward, reaching toward her with a desperate grab. Sarah moved instinctively, spinning around, keeping the light focused on him. He recoiled, shielding his eyes from the radiance. It's not real, you can't defeat us. He spat, but there was a tremor in his voice now. The leader shouted an order, but as his words fell from his lips, a crack split the earth. Thrashing from the depths, the creature reached for the cultists' long, shadowy appendages coiling out like tormented spirits. What is happening? The leader screamed, panic slicing through his bravado. The shadows frayed into wisps, struggling against their master's pull, torn by Sarah's light and the call of the ancient being below. For a moment, the creature above transformed the very fabric of the battleground, crafting an unsettling dance of light and dark. Use it. Focus it on Lily. Sarah thought, urging her heart to set her intentions clear. If she harnessed the light and directed it, she could break not only the bonds holding her daughter but also this horrific web of chaos. Keep your eyes on me. Sarah shouted to Lily, her own resolve surging. She let the light pulse, each beat a heartbeat stronger, urging the creature to break free. Together, we can do this. Lily nodded, the fear in her eyes now mixed with an ember of hope. The tendrils from the ground writhed wildly around them, slipping and sliding, until one brushed against her wrist, igniting her bond to the chaos beneath. As Sarah's light swelled, the primal scream of the creature echoed loudly, overpowering the chants of the cultists. The shadows fought against their bindings, struggling against the ancient rituals meant to keep them contained. Stop her! The leader shouted, but his voice trembled, less certain, drowned out by the roar of the creature's fury. The ground shifted violently, reforming, shaking the very essence of the ritual apart. Everything felt unsteady, time slowing for a breath. The tension hung thick in the air. What would happen if they succeeded? Would the darkness be thwarted, or would it simply turn to devour every shred of light? Just as Sarah believed they might have the upper hand, a new shadow emerged, a terrifying figure clad in the remnants of ancient robes. It towered over them, cloaked in enigma, eyes ablaze with vicious intent. Foolish mortals! It boomed, voice echoing like thunder. You think you can usurp my dominion? Panic flared within her. How could they battle what was never meant to be? Fought? The fate of her daughter hung in the balance. As the creature loomed closer, all aspects of fear and light wove into a tapestry of dread, blurring the realities of salvation and doom. Was there hope left, or was this the end of everything she had fought for? The figure raised an arm, shadows coiling like serpents preparing to pounce. And in that moment of crushing uncertainty, Sarah realized their fate would be decided in an instant. Would the light consume them, or would the darkness claim their lives forever? As the shadows surged forward, hearts pounding, one last cry for freedom echoed into the night, leaving the answer hanging in the air. The shadows twisted and writhed, their serpentine forms reaching for Sarah's heart. She felt an icy grip on her soul, the dread wrapping around her like a vice. The figure, an avatar of malevolence, loomed ever closer, each heartbeat reverberating in ominous synchronicity. "Mother!" Lily's terrified voice cut through the chaos, igniting a fire within Sarah. She pivoted, her light flaring bright, a desperate beacon against the void. But the creature remained unfazed, its dark eyes locking on Sarah with hunger, thirsting for control. "Do you not understand?" The towering figure taunted, its voice scratching against her mind. "This power belongs to me. Your light is a mere flicker in my eternal darkness." The air crackled, thick with energy, both dark and light colliding like thunderclouds. Sarah gritted her teeth, anger surging with every word spoken by this nightmare. "No! We will not yield!" she shouted, her resolve deepening. The shadows hesitated, an unusual falter in their relentless charge. This moment, this brief pause, was all the opportunity she needed. She sensed the creature's rage, a wild, chaotic force yearning for liberation, and it mirrored her own. "Now, Lily!" Sarah beckoned, reaching out through the web of chaos. "Channel it, feel the anger. We can unleash it together." Lily's hands trembled, the aura encircling her wrist flickering violently. The child's fear mingled with a fierce determination, her small frame glowing within the realm of shadows. I am scared," she admitted, voice shaky but resolute. "Don't think. Just trust me." The ground beneath them shook again, the earth yearning to break free from its shackles. Sarah felt the pulse of the creature below synchronizing with her heart. They were connected, both filled with fury, both longing for freedom. "Let it out!" Sarah shouted, turning her focused light towards the encroaching dark. "Together!" With an understanding deeper than words, Lily stepped forward, thrusting her hands into the light. Instantly, an explosion of colors erupted, illuminating the battlefield in a furious spectrum. Shadows recoiled, their shrieks mixing with the primal roar of the ancient force beneath. The leader of the cultists stumbled back, a ghastly expression crossing his face. "This must not be!" he screamed, desperation coloring his words as darkness swirled around him. But as the spectral light intensified, a revelation unfurled. The shadows had been binding the creature below, but they also mirrored its anguish. Every shadow, every specter they conjured was merely a reflection of the pain they sought to exploit. With newfound strength, Sarah and Lily launched the incandescent light like a fierce wave, sweeping over the cultists. They gasped, reeling from the brilliance that tore through the darkness. The frantic chaos shifted, as if caught in a distorted reality, and the ancient being roared, its voice layering with Sarah's call. Then came the dread. The ground split open wider, grief and fury entwined, spilling forth shadows and blinding light in a cataclysmic rift. Lily screamed as she stumbled back, dragged down by an unseen force. "Mom! Lily!" Sarah lunged forward, heart racing. The chasm below threatened to swallow them whole. In that moment, a bolt of dread gripped Sarah's chest. "No!" she howled. She wouldn't lose her daughter. But as she reached for Lily, a hand shot from the darkness, grasping Lily's ankle. Sarah felt despair slice through her. The tendrils of darkness tightened, wrapping around Lily as she fell, eyes wide with horror. "Help me!" Lily cried, panic surging. The figure above glared, shadows swirling in a tempest around it, emboldened by Lily's fear. Sarah could sense the darkness closing in, creeping through the cracks in her resolve. Was this it? Would she lose everything? Time stretched painfully as Sarah's instincts screamed. The creaking of the earth thundered in her ears. "Fight back!" she yelled desperately. "Use the light. Fight!" But would her daughter heed her call? As darkness draped itself around them, a singular thought clenched in Sarah's mind. Was light enough to sever the bond of darkness? The answer hung in the air, thick and heavy. Would the light arise to shatter the shackles of despair, or would darkness claim its final prize? And as shadows surged, closing in like wolves around a lone rabbit, one question echoed like a drum in the silence: what price would they pay for survival? The shadows twisted further as if they were alive, throbbing with hunger. The once vibrant light Sarah and Lily conjured flickered dangerously. Fear clawed at Sarah's insides like wild animals trying to escape. "Lily! Hold on!" she screamed, limbs trembling as she fought to stem the tide of darkness demanding her child's soul. Time felt suspended, the ground inhospitable beneath her feet. She could see the sheer horror in Lily's eyes, pleading and filled with anguish. "No! No!" Lily's voice broke, muffled under the weight of despair as she was pulled deeper into the fissure. "Mom!" The sinister figure above them laughed, a sound devoid of humanity, and it rattled Sarah's bones. "You cannot save her, Lightbringer," it hissed. "Surrender to the darkness and perhaps I'll spare her." Sarah's breath quickened. She could feel her heart hammering against her ribs. It was a drumbeat of desperation. There was no way she could allow this creature to take her daughter. She refused. With every ounce of strength left, she surged forward, her fingers stretching out toward Lily. "Fight it!" Sarah yelled, desperation flooding her voice. "Use the light. You're stronger than it." Lily's eyes shone, a spark of defiance breaking through the terror. For a moment, her glow grew stronger, illuminating the tendrils wrapping around her. But shadows recoiled with viciousness, pushing back against the effort. "If you fail today, witness the end of your bloodline." The creature's voice was suffocating, a thick fog of malevolence swirling around them, choking Sarah's heart. Something shifted deep inside Sarah, igniting the strength she thought had vanished. Memories of love and laughter flashed before her soft whispers, tiny hands in hers, a bright future painted in innocence. She couldn't lose this. She wouldn't. With renewed vigor, she dug deeper. "We are not afraid." Her voice surged out like an arrow, sharp and full of conviction. "You have no power over us." The light erupted, a radiant feedback against the encroaching darkness. The shadows hissed and twisted in anger, their form quaking, unsure. The chasm beneath Lily shuddered. "Feel our strength, you wretched thing!" Sarah shouted as she gathered every ounce of her energy, pouring her spirit into the beam illuminating their sanctuary. She pushed the light toward her daughter, flames flickering with the vibrancy of hope. Lily's expression transformed, fear still trembling at the edges but resolute now. The ethereal light around her flared once more as her small hands shot up. "Together, Mom!" she cried, the brightness growing in a stunning conflagration. The earth erupted, shadows screaming as they recoiled from the light, the fissure swallowing another wave of darkness. Backed against the menace, Sarah leaned toward her daughter, each inch of space between them becoming a battleground. "Now!" Sarah urged, their hands nearly touching. "Together!" shouted Lily. They clasped hands and a surge of energy blasted through them, a wave of brilliance asserting its dominion over the darkness. A conflict of forces collided. But in the chaos, a sound, deep and insidious, rumbled from the depths as the shadows wailed, a recruiting howl that echoed through Sarah's mind. "This isn't over," it promised. In that fraught moment, the shadows began to warp, taking form, reconstituting themselves into grotesque faces, lost souls that somehow remained tied to the creature, faces Sarah knew too well. Mom, Lily's voice quivered now, confusion settling in. What are they?" A chill coursed down Sarah's spine, the realization dawning on her. The past, they are reflections of the ones who failed before. No. She had to keep fighting. But the ground shook again, shaking their very foundation. "Stay strong, Lily." Panic gripped her as shadows lunged forward again, filling the air with a pungent scent of decay and desperation. The creature's eyes glinted with something sinister and understanding that sent tremors of dread through Sarah. You think you can break this cycle? This is just a beginning, it hissed, an eternity of malice radiating from its being. As shadows surged toward them in a fresh frenzy, Sarah's grip on Lily tightened. We will not be consumed, she vowed, a fierce declaration. Yet the price loomed heavy in the air. Would they be swallowed into the dark? The abyss yawned wider beneath them with an ominous whisper. Surrender, and it will be easy. How long could they hold on? Would their unity even be enough against the darkness relentless in its pursuit? As doubt began to creep in once more, another question echoed in the chaos. What would they sacrifice for the light to survive? The shadows writhed and shifted, coalescing into twisted glimpses of the past faces once alive now trapped in a hellscape of despair. Sarah's heart raced as they reached out, mouths moving in silent screams. She had seen them all before, friends, family, even neighbors lost in the endless void that consumed them. Mom, I don't want to see them. Lily cried, her voice trembling, tears glistening in her bright eyes. We're not lost, Lily. We're stronger than this. Sarah shouted back, but the doubt slithered through her mind like a venomous snake. Would their light be enough to fend off the horrors clawing to drag them down? The creature loomed above, its presence an oppressive weight. They are your failures, your fears. You both must embrace them, it sneered, the voices of the lost echoing in mockery. Only then can you escape this fate. No. We refuse. Sarah roared, her voice piercing through the cacophony. She couldn't let the shadows seep into Lily's heart. Not now. Gripping her daughter's hand tighter, she forced herself to focus on the warmth radiating from their connection. Memories flooded her mind, a time before fear and darkness took hold, the laughter shared over breakfast, the bedtime stories, the solace of simply being together. Remember the light, Lily. It's within you. Forcing back the rising terror, Sarah drew on that bond, channeling it into pure energy. She felt the warmth spill around them, the vibrancy of hope igniting against the encroaching dread. Shadows lunged, snarling like wolves, but with each inch toward them, the light expanded. The figures faltered, writhing in pain as the brightness clawed at their forms. Keep fighting. Lily cried as she strained against the pull of the abyss. We can do this. With each surge, it felt like a battle for her very soul, but Sarah matched her daughter's energy, hands clenched in a fierce resolve. The faces around them screamed, twisting in agony as they were pushed back. But then, just as they could feel a glimmer of triumph, a piercing shriek tore through the air, freezing them in place. The shadows convulsed violently, and the sinister figure above them laughed, its laughter echoing like shattering glass. You think you can escape? You're still bound to this darkness. Witness what is to come. The ground erupted beneath their feet, the chasm yawning wider, threatening to consume them both whole. Sarah's resolve waned for a heartbeat. She couldn't let fear invade the haven they created. Lily, listen. Sarah shouted. Visualize the light. With me. She emphasized each word, spurring energy through her veins. A flicker of determination crossed Lily's face, her eyes narrowing as she repeated, with you. In that moment, the shadows surged forward, their forms a chaotic whirl. But Sarah and Lily braced themselves, standing firm against the onslaught. As the darkness fought against their resolve, a bitter chill swept through the air. Whispers brushed past them like a chilling wind, laced with despair and hopelessness. You are not the first to try, the shadows hissed, the voices dripping with cynicism. Then we will be the last. Sarah screamed, defiance roaring inside her chest, pushing them forward, clawing at the light. And just when it seemed they would break, a brilliant pulse erupted from their unified strength. It surged through them, casting back the shadows momentarily. But the power came at a cost. Their connection flickered. For an instant, Sarah felt the fraying edges of their bond loosen as the shadows clawed again, shrieking with anger and desperation. What's happening? Lily gasped, panic flooding her voice. I don't know. Sarah cried, heart pounding, as darkness closed in once more. Could they hold on? Or would the darkness find its way back in, claiming them for its own? A horrifying thought gripped Sarah's heart. In the battle of light and shadow, could they be the ones to fail? As the darkness clawed towards them with renewed fury, Sarah's desperation surged to a breaking point. Stay with me, Lily. But the shadows, relentless in their pursuit, surged forward again, boiling over the edges of their sanctuary. Lily's breath quickened, her small frame trembling under the weight of their impending doom. What would they lose to seal the breach between light and dark? And were they truly prepared to face what came next? The darkness twisted around them, howling in a cacophony of despair and rage. Sarah felt the echoes of the lost pulling at her, their fingers clawing at her resolve. Each scream was a dagger, a reminder of what could happen if they faltered. She fought to hold on to the light, but the shadows pushed in with a suffocating weight, threatening to snuff out the flicker of hope they had ignited. Lily! She shouted, desperation lacing her voice. Focus on me. We're going to get through this. But Lily was struggling, her young face contorted in fear as the shadows wrapped around her ankles, tugging her down into the abyss. I can't breathe. She shouted, the terror ringing clear in her voice. Yes, you can. Just hold on. Sarah's fingertips went cold as she tightened her grip. It felt as if the darkness was draining the very warmth from her body. The creature loomed closer, its eyes sparkling with malice. Embrace what you've lost, it taunted, voice sharp as glass. Only surrender can grant you peace. The end is inevitable. No! Sarah yelled, defiance boiling over. We will not submit. Not to you. With a deep breath, she began to channel everything she had: the memories of laughter, the comfort of shared nights under a blanket, the twinkling lights of Christmases past. Each thought built the light that surged anew, a force pushing back against the encroaching void. She felt Lily's presence press against her, building strength alongside her own. The shadows shrieked louder, a horrific chorus of familiar voices that echoed with regret and sorrow. Sarah recognized them, loved ones lost to the burdens of despair. You can't have us. She screamed, the fierceness of her declaration cracking through the shadows. A pulse of blinding light erupted from them, cascading with a dazzling intensity. The figures surrounding them writhed, terrified of the brightness that fought back against their darkness. With each heartbeat, with every ounce of resolve she summoned, they pushed against the oncoming tide. But then the shadows regrouped and charged. The chill returned, piercing through Sarah's courage, and a gust of wind whipped around them, swirling the darkness like a storm. You are fools to resist. This is your fate. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and cracks spider-webbed outward, impending doom written starkly against the fractured earth. Sarah scanned the area, her heart racing. If they weren't careful, they would fall into the unrelenting chasm below. Look, Lily! She shouted above the dissonant echoes. There! The light! A glimmer flickered in the distance, a radiant beacon shimmering like the sun breaking through the storm. For a moment, hope surged anew. But the shadows hissed, their breath hot and rancid, snarling at them. What if it's a trap? Lily whispered, her eyes wide with uncertainty. We have to believe. We're stronger together. Sarah asserted, desperation turning into flames of determination. But even as she rallied her spirit, a dark hand from the depths shot out, grasping for Lily. The girl's terrified scream echoed through the turbulence as Sarah pulled Lily closer, their hearts pounding in unison. Fight back! Sarah cried. Remember the light. In that moment of unyielding love and motherly instinct, Sarah drew on the depths of her strength, feeling each connection binding them together. They could not let the shadows win. Just as she thought they might break free, Lily's gaze flickered towards the void. The shadows laughed, a sound that chilled Sarah to her bones. "You will join us soon, little girl. Your light is nothing without her. Stay with me." Sarah shouted, but the shadows loomed larger, more threatening. As they surged once more, Sarah's heart sank. Could they truly reach the light before they were pulled under? She glanced at Lily, panic filling her. In that fleeting moment, amidst the chaos, the sensation of loss penetrated her thoughts. Did she have the strength to face the full weight of the darkness? Lily, what if the thought never completed as the shadows lunged again, fury exploding around them? What must they sacrifice to escape, and who would they become if they did? Sarah could feel the unraveling. In that crumbling moment, she knew fear had begun to entwine its tendrils around their hearts. Would they find a way to sever those bonds from darkness? And what would they discover in the light if they ever reached it? The darkness surged, clawing for their souls with a cruel determination. Sarah felt its icy fingers wrapping around her heart, squeezing tight as she looked into her daughter's frightened eyes. The shadows howled, echoing memories of despair meant to weaken her resolve. Yet, within that chaos, there flickered a spark, a reminder of everything that had brought them to this moment. "Lily, listen to me," Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the din. "We are stronger than this. Remember all the love we share, all the good." With a deep breath, Sarah focused on that love, conjuring memories, the warmth of Lily's laughter on the sunny days, hugs that melted away troubles, bedtime stories that sparked dreams. The light within her flared, filling her with purpose. She could feel Lily's small hand trembling in hers, but something shifted in her daughter's resolve. For every shadow that lunged, they pushed together, shifting from fear to strength. "Together, we won to let the darkness win," Sarah yelled through gritted teeth, channeling every ounce of her energy into that light. In response, Lily squeezed her hand tight, and a surge of warmth flowed between them. The shadows recoiled, screeching in agony. "You think your love is enough? You're nothing." The ominous figure snarled, a myriad of voices layered beneath its menacing tone. But Sarah stood firm, light radiating from her, illuminating the entire dark cavern. In that moment, the shadows faltered, and she knew they had the upper hand. "We are the light. We will break this cycle," she cried, lifting her arms as if to burst free of all chains. They summoned every ounce of their shared connection, igniting the light into a fierce blaze, piercing the shadows surrounding them. The banshee wails of despair filled the air, but now carried with them a new urgency, a fear of the light that forced the shadows back. "Mom!" Lily's voice rang clear, full of newfound strength. "I can feel it. I want to let go." With those words, the very fabric of the darkness twisted and began to dissolve before their eyes. The horrifying faces of lost souls melted away, their anguished wails morphing into muffled whispers. The sinister figure above them screamed in desperation as the abyss they had conjured began to fold in on itself. "No!" it bellowed, but the power of Sarah and Lily's light swept through the darkness like wildfire, consuming and erasing all it touched. The twisted energy of fear and despair shrank back into the ground, losing its form, losing its grip. And just like that, it was over. The shadows shrieked one last time, their voices intertwined in a cacophony of loss before disappearing entirely. The ground settled, solid beneath their feet, but the remnants of the battle hung in the air, a gentle reminder of what they had faced. "Lily!" Sarah gasped, kneeling before her daughter. They embraced tightly, holding on to each other as if their bond could ward off any remaining echoes of darkness. "I was so scared, Mommy," Lily sniffled, burying her face into Sarah's shoulder, but warmth flooded back into them both, and Sarah cradled her child tighter. "I know, but we did it. We fought back together," Sarah whispered, feeling tears of relief spill down her cheeks. The weight of nightmares had been lifted from them, they were free. As they pulled apart, a golden light spread across the horizon, illuminating the entire land around them. The sun rose, wrapping everything in warmth, pushing away the shadows of the night. With every beam, a new day began, a chance to rebuild. "Let us go home, sweetheart," Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. Hand in hand, they walked back towards Maplewood, leaving the ruins of their haunting experience behind them. Neighborhoods buzzed with life, children played, and the world resumed its spin, oblivious to the darkness that had lurked just out of sight. But Sarah and Lily carried a fierce strength in their hearts now. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger. Whatever lay ahead, they would tackle it together, even the shadows that lingered only in their memories. And that was enough. Now, if you've loved this journey just as much as I have, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. And smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep us thriving. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and thoughts about this wild ending. What do you think happened to the cult? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel, so let us keep the community growing.